Hi guys, it is Miss Holly and I am here today for a special Day of the Dead story time, or El Dia de los Muertos story time. And the books we are going to read today are My Family Celebrates Day of the Dead and The Dead Family Diaz. The last story we're going to read is Just in Case. Real quick though, I just want to tell you a little bit about Day of the Dead, the holiday. So the Aztecs once lived in Mexico, and they believed that the dead visited during a special time every year. Then the Spanish from Europe came to Mexico in the 1500s, and the Spanish were Christians, and the Aztecs were not, but they kind of mashed their two religions together, and it kind of created Day of the Dead, which is from the Aztecs believing the dead came to the land of the living, and from All Saints' Day from the Christian religion. So now we celebrate it with skeletons and sugar skulls. They're common Day of the Dead decorations, as you can see here. They remind people of death, but they're not meant to be scary, as they're colorful and fun. And one last thing I wanted to let you know, I speak English and German. I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not a perfect pronunciator of Spanish words, but there are some Spanish words in these books, and I'm going to do my best. But please bear with me, just to let you know. So this book is called My Family Celebrates Day of the Dead, and it is by Lisa Bullard. Hi, I'm Daniela, and I can't wait for Day of the Dead. It was my grandpa's favorite holiday. It's an important holiday in Mexico, but some families in the United States celebrate it too. On Day of the Dead, we remember people who have died. My school friends think it sounds sad, but Grandpa always said it is a happy time. This year, I'm remembering Grandpa. He died a few months ago. Mama says Grandpa will be back to visit us on Day of the Dead. I won't see him, but I'll know he's here. We make our ofrenda, or altar. It's for Grandpa and other loved ones who have died. That's where we put Day of the Dead things, like Grandpa's picture and his favorite hat. Mama and I pick out sugar skulls at the market. We also buy funny little skeletons. You guys can see my funny little skeleton friends here. We buy bread of the dead from the baker. Yum, I'll be sure to leave lots for Grandpa on the altar. On Day of the Dead, we visit the cemetery. We clean Grandpa's grave. We leave marigolds for him to smell. Lots of family members come to visit later. Everyone tells funny stories, especially about Grandpa. I laugh until my belly aches, or maybe that's because I ate too many tamales. Day of the Dead is almost over. I'm going to keep Grandpa's hat in my room. He'll look for it on the altar again next year. And that is the end of My Family Celebrates Day of the Dead. All right, so this book is called The Dead Family Diaz, and it is by P.J. Bracegirdle. Morning came as the dead sun chased off the dead moon. All across the land of the dead, everyone's spirits were high. Rise and shine, sleepy skulls, Mrs. Diaz called. Breakfast is getting cold. Huevos muertos, cheered Estrelita. Yum! Angelito looked at his plate miserably. Today was Day of the Dead, when his family would walk among the living. And Angelito was feeling scared. Did I tell you how the living have big, red tongues and bulging eyes? His sister jabbered. And if you touch one, they feel all hot and squishy. Ew! Gasped Angelito, turning whiter than ever. Mrs. Diaz hushed her daughter. The living are our friends, she said, and this is the one time each year everyone gets together to celebrate. But were they really hot and squishy? Angelito listened in horror to his sister's stories about Halloween, when the living put out fiery-eyed pumpkins to scare the dead away. Except it never works, crackled Estrelita. Mwahaha. The Day of the Dead is nothing like Halloween, Angelito's father insisted. Now eat up, we don't want to be late. Angelito fed his breakfast to Dante while Estrelita chomped away. Finally, the family piled into the car. I told you we should have left earlier, Mr. Diaz grumbled. Just look at this traffic. Nearby, a large crowd was waiting for the elevator to the land of the living, and the dead were getting restless. Quit pushing, numbskull. Tell it to the zombies in back. Jostled and shoved, the Diaz family squeezed into a packed elevator. Up and up they went until, ding, the doors finally opened. Welcome to the land of the living, a booming voice shouted. Pushed into the bright world beyond, Angelito froze. Where were his parents? Shouting people, chiming bells, and blaring music drowned out his calls. He darted through the crowd searching, but his family was nowhere to be found. Finally, Angelito arrived at a quiet square. Spotting a friendly-looking skull, he asked, "You didn't see a man and a woman and a bone-headed girl wearing too much jaw gloss pass by, did you?" The boy laughed but shook his head. Angelito began to slump away. "I'm Pablo, by the way," the boy called. "Did you happen to see any of them yet?" Them? He means the living, Angelito thought. He told Pablo all about the terrible shouting he'd heard near the elevators. "They must be getting ready to attack," whispered Pablo. "Let's get out of here." The pair scrambled behind a fruit and vegetable stand, where Angelito came up with a plan. They'd tip over boxes of cherries so their enemies would slip. "And then we can finish them off with these," Pablo suggested, handing over a few tomatoes. Before long, they heard an angry mob approaching. "Get ready," whispered Angelito. "Aim!" "Wait, hold your fire!" cried Pablo. It wasn't a mob at all, but a parade full of banging drums and blasting trumpets. Still, Pablo warned that some of them might be hiding in it. "Maybe we should keep our masks on, just in case." "Masks?" laughed the skeleton boy. "What masks?" "These ones, silly," said Pablo, reaching for Angelito's face. "Hey, you're as cold as a popsicle," he squealed. "And you've got bulging eyes," cried Angelito. "Ah! You're one of them!" they both shouted. Angelito tore off, tearing down the streets and alleyways without looking back. Out of breath, he finally stopped. Had he really been playing with a living boy the whole time? How freaky, he shuddered. How icky, how awful. But how incredibly fun, he had to admit. Except now, he was alone again. Feeling glum, Angelito wandered around the deserted town until he found himself at the cemetery gates. Inside, a big party was going on. There was a loud bark. "Dante!" Angelito cried, rushing toward his family. Mrs. Diaz squeezed her son so tightly he thought he might crack. Angelito told how he'd gotten lost and had been looking for them all day. "We're just glad you're safe," sighed his father. "Now, let's get to the buffet. I'm ready to stuff my rib cage." Estrelita slid up to her brother. "Oh, I bet you were so scared," she whispered gleefully, "all alone in the land of the living." "Actually, I wasn't alone," Angelito said. And then, spotting a familiar face, the dead boy discovered that he didn't need guts to be brave. "Hey, Pablo, wait up," Angelito called. The living boy turned. Then a big smile crossed his face. "Sorry for saying you had bulging eyes," said Angelito. "Sorry for calling you a popsicle," Pablo replied. "So we're cool again?" Angelito asked, grinning a big skeleton grin. Pablo winked. "Cool as your bones." Angelito told Pablo all the things Estrelita had said to make him scared of the living. "She's okay mostly," he admitted, "but sometimes she can be a real knucklebone." "Maybe she just needs to meet a real living boy up close," Pablo said. Mwahahaha. The dead moon had already chased off the dead sun by the time the dead family Diaz returned home. Bone-tired, Angelito headed to bed where he dreamed sweet dreams. And that is the end of the dead family Diaz. So this book is called Just in Case, and it is by Yuyi Morales. At last, the day had arrived. It was Grandma Beetle's birthday. Senor Calavera put on cologne, dusted his hat, ironed his best tie, and pumped the tires of his bike. Grandma Beetle was Senor Calavera's friend, and her last party had been a blast. He would not miss this one for anything in the world. Riding through the neighborhood with glee, he waved goodbye to his friends. Soon he would be at Grandma's O.C. Then a moan from beyond the grave. "Just a minute." Nearly made him fall. What a fright. But it was only Zelmiro the ghost. "Going to Grandma Beetle's party?" Senor Calavera tipped his hat. "She will be glad that you are right on time, but aren't you forgetting something?" Senor Calavera scratched his head. He had done everything he was supposed to. Unless... Quizás? Oh my, he had forgotten a present for Grandma Beetle. "Don't worry," Zelmiro smiled. "You surely must know the best present to give a friend is the thing she would love the most." Of course, Senor Calavera went looking and chose especially for Grandma Beetle. Un accordion, an accordion for her to dance to. Bigotes, a mustache because she had none. Costillas, tickles to make her laugh. Un chiflido, a whistle he trapped in a bag. The ghost clapped. "Your gifts are a vision," Senor Calavera hummed while he tied the presents to his bike. "But I wonder," Zelmiro said, "are they what Grandma Beetle would love the most? Why don't you look again, my friend, just in case?" Senor Calavera thought for a moment. He still had some time, so he searched once more and packed dientes, teeth for a good bite. Una escalera, a ladder to reach past the sky. Una flauta, a flute he made from a branch. Granizado, a snow cone flavored with syrup. "Your presents stopped me cold," the ghost squirmed in delight. Senor Calavera didn't know he could be so good at finding presents. "But I wonder," Zelmiro said, "are they what Grandma Beetle would love the most? Why don't you look again, my friend, just in case?" It wasn't late yet, Senor Calavera realized, so he poked around and picked. Una historieta, a one-of-a-kind comic book. Instrucciones, instructions to find all things lost. Un jaguar, a jaguar to keep her safe. "Your gifts move my soul," the ghost gave a bow. Senor Calavera was ready without a doubt. "But I wonder," Zelmiro said, "are they what Grandma Beetle would love the most? Why don't you look again, my friend, just in case?" Senor Calavera frowned. Being on time was his job. Still, he hustled and bound. Una loteria, a lottery game to play with her grandchildren. Una ulave, a key to open all doors. Una maño, a bow to tie her hair. Nibla, bog to play hide and seek in. The ghost gasped. Your presence make my heart stop. Grandma is going to be surprised. But I wonder, Zelmiro said, are they what Grandma Beetle would love the most? Why don't you look again, my friend, just in case? Grandma must already be icing the cake. Even so, she deserved the best. So Senor Calavera sought and chose. Ñapa, a little of everything. Un ombligo, a bread called belly button. Un papalote, a kite to play with, the wind. 15 años, 15 more years of life. The ghost gave a cheer. Your gifts are to die for. Senor Calavera hopped onto his bike. Zelmiro took a deep breath. But I wonder, he said, are they what Grandma Beetle would love the most? Why don't you look again, my friend, just in case? Surely Grandma's beautiful grandchildren must already be at the party. Senor Calavera quickly went looking and got Rayuela, her favorite childhood game. Una semilla, a seed to plant and grow. Un titire, a puppet made from a sock. Uñas, fingernails fierce and strong. Your gifts take my breath away, the ghost sighed. Senor Calavera looked at his watch. He didn't want to miss breaking the piñatas. Zelmiro studied the presents on the bike. But my friend, I wonder, he said, are they what Grandma Beetle would love the most? Look again, just in case. Even though it was already late, Senor Calavera ran to pick out vanilla, a fragrant vanilla pod. Una W, to have two uves for when one is not enough. Una xylographia, wood-engraved art to hang in her room. Yerba buena, a good herb to soothe her day. And nothing more. Senor Calavera had taken too long. He was going to miss the party. He climbed onto his bike and hurried off before Zelmiro could ask for anything else. Look at Senor Calavera pedaling so fast. Oh no, watch out, Senor Calavera. Oh dear. Poor Senor Calavera. All his beautiful presents ruined. Senor Calavera couldn't believe his misfortune. And now there was no time left to get any presents at all, except, perhaps, maybe, quizás. When Grandma Beetle was about to blow out the candles on her cake, she heard a knock at the door. And oh my! Waiting for her, she found Senor Calavera, who had brought Grandma Beetle the present she loved most. Grandpa Zelmiro. Did you guys see that coming? And that is the end of Just in Case. So those are all the stories we have time for today. Thank you for coming to watch my Day of the Dead story time. And also, before I leave you, I have a little handout for you that has a list of all the books that I've read in the story time, and then some online resources like a link to the Coco soundtrack if you want to listen to Day of the Dead music. And we also have some crafts in that handout that you can do from home. So if you just want to check the link in probably the description box down there, that is where you can find that handout. And I have to put my mask on to go back in the regular part of the library as usual. So I will see you guys shortly, actually. I think I'm going to be doing a Diwali story time in a few weeks. So bye guys, and gotta put my mask on.